Welcome to our podcast for Vouched. We make an effort to highlight our partners. Partnerships are really important to us in the identity verification space, and platforms like LendFlow, who we're going to feature today, are super important for us to get out into the fintech space. So welcome, John.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me on. Awesome to be a partner of Vouched and excited to dig in with some of these cool topics today.
Good. I'm going to go through a little bit of your background and the origin of the company, and then I'll turn it over to you to tell me more about kind of the origin story and really why you've created LendFlow, how the company really serves a unique purpose in the industry, and what you've been accomplished, or what you've accomplished so far. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Let's dive in.
John, here we go. Seasoned entrepreneur, multiple companies that you've worked at in this space, which is great. LendFlow has been around now since 2019, so that's a good run in this space. Congrats on that. You're also founded companies Channel Growth and Quickline Credit, both fintech startups. I'm going to finish with a question for budding fintech entrepreneurs, getting advice for you on career and kind of things to focus on for their building their own companies. The focus here is on SMB, small, medium-sized business lending. You started as an entrepreneur in college, which is awesome. I was mowing yards and cleaning toilets, so I want to hear about the companies you were building then during college, and that LendFlow is really an embedded credit infrastructure platform, and it's designed to simplify and expedite the lending process for fintechs. I'll let you say more about that. We're super excited to get this partnership kicked off. So give us a little bit of the sense of the origin story and maybe a little bit about where your journey as an entrepreneur started. How did you get this flavor for fintech?
Yeah, definitely. Going back to the good old days, back to college. So it's what I spent doing a majority of my time. I kind of at beginning, probably the beginning of my sophomore year, I was like, hey, you know what? This is what I really want. I'm really excited about a lot of this new technology. This is, the direction I want to take, and just made the commitment right there. And it started with pretty basic stuff. I just started building and learning how to build my first website, right? And then that turned into, I ultimately ended up just building hundreds. And that's actually mainly what I ultimately focused on the most in college. I was kind of trying to just do the minimum that I could in my classes. And like my actual learning was just like sitting in my room and trying to just build different things. And so then learned to market the websites and many different channels. And, AdSense was new, and Google Ads, and all these new exciting channels to try, and new partnerships, and new types of tech companies to work with. So built hundreds of different websites just for about everything I could think of, and then started to build up a lot of other skills that were important to gain customers and distribution for those sites, and to get users. So that led into ultimately kind of fintech, financial services and small businesses. It's where I started to really just have success. And, you tend to enjoy things when they're working better. And so that started to work well. And it was kind of aligned with my degree as well, as I got a master's in accounting, and focused on a lot of those concepts there. And when I graduated, the websites were doing pretty well. I had a nice little business going, and I was like, you know what, I want to keep doing this. Like, this is where I want to be, and I just never stopped. Post graduation. So soon after, maybe within the first year and a half, I really started to focus on like SMB lending, because that's where I got a great customer, started to see some scale, things are really working. And when you're starting to bring in a lot of money for something, all the other stuff feels less important. So you just kind of double down. And so that's how I got and really fell in with the SMB, small businesses, serving them, and like, fintech and lending is a subset of that.
Excellent. That's great. And one of the challenges I know from our work in identity is verifying those businesses, making sure they're legit. Say a little bit about some of the challenges that you see in this industry for lenders in general.
Yeah, The three big ones I'll say is, well, first, the one that you just mentioned, identity fraud, running those checks and making sure that's a major one. The second one is distribution. That's how do I get new customers efficiently, right? And then the third is just operational efficiency. So how can I create a great, streamlined, automated, efficient experience to onboard a new customer for a loan? So those are three big areas. Um, we're and the platform that we've built is really built to solve all three, right? We solve all these problems when we work really closely with lenders, because there's so much inefficiencies in each one. And the first one, so much new types of fraud and new fraud, industries were basically built during COVID, and so that's become really more and more and more important over time as those types of fraudsters have been become more prevalent. You've had to keep up and partner with companies who are staying ahead of the curve. And so that's incredibly important. We also saw, to market before 10 years ago is really just hit them with a message and hope you catch them on the right day where it's the right time for a loan. And that's really highly, highly inefficient and also a poor experience for the borrower, for the business. They just keep getting hammered with these messages and it becomes tiring, right? And instead, it's about bringing the loans to the places where they are at the time they actually need them, right? Which is, hey, they're already using the software to operate. You can already determine maybe through a workflow that they're in, maybe they're making a purchase, or they need to, run payroll, or they need to pay an invoice, or they're creating an invoice and maybe they want to get paid on the invoice. So there's all these different touch points, which in the product that says, hey, this is probably a good time to offer something because maybe you want to get paid faster. Maybe you want to solve a cash flow gap. Maybe you want to finance a purchase so you can make multiple purchases to take on more projects. And so bringing it to where they are and then make it embedded into that experience is a much, much stronger experience, a better experience for the customer. It's also much better for the lender, right? Because it's much more efficient and they have higher engagement, like higher quality customers because of it. So it's really a win-win for both sides. And then third, once you are approved, like how can you get approved and onboarded efficiently, right? And the problem in SMB lending is that that's very it's still very, very inefficient. And consumer mostly, if you've ever gotten a loan, you can see that you can apply and get approved and go through the process, and it's all very automated and efficient. In SMB lending, it's quite a bit behind, right? And as you get into the more specialized products, the larger and more specialized they are, then the more time-consuming, arduous, slow these processes become, and that just means there's a lot of inefficiency, which ultimately, what those things lead to, the distribution challenges and the efficiency challenges and the fraud challenges, what those lead to is higher price loans, and they're much more expensive, right? Which means higher cost of capital and less money ultimately to invest in the business. And so you solve those three things, then you're really going to solve them. One of the main things that people want is cheaper access to capital, so that they can have more reasons to invest in their business and can grow more quickly. So, yep.
That's great. That's a great summary of how your company is better serving these the borrowers, right? And the focus on that ultimate end of getting them capital. And I would imagine it's even more intensified in the uncertain economic times we have right now, with some changes with trade, and a lot of small businesses depend on imported goods, that sort of thing. So capital is going to be really important. When you bring a lender onto your platform, are you typically replacing something they were doing in-house, or replacing a legacy incumbent platform?
Yep. So the way that we like to look at it is not really replacing the legacy incumbent platforms, because that's a pretty tall order, and they
Yeah.
already have. There's a reason. The ones who they're still doing very well, right, and the ones who are doing it great, and they have these processes for a reason. And so instead of trying to come in and replace, what we'd like to do is augment what they have and just be an application layer that can support it and can fill in the gaps, but then still ultimately goes into their normal process. But now it's much better packaged, it's much better prepared. It makes their team members really superpowered to be much more efficient, because all the tedious steps that they would normally have to do on every single file. Well, everything's been filtered and packaged beforehand, so when it does get to the end of their system, it does get to their most productive people, that it's it's ready to go, it's packaged, and the percentage is very high. That it makes it right through all of their checks, because that's where really you get a lot of the slowdown, right? It's not necessarily the doing one; it's about the queue, and when things have to go back in the queue because they find things. So um, being the augmentation layer that sits side by side and like supercharges the platform that they're using,
Got it.
is usually our first way. And we do have some that have ultimately ended up coming over, but that's usually not the place we start. Let's get quick wins together. Let's augment what you have, and if it makes sense later, we can always talk about that, if it makes sense down the road.
Excellent. Thanks for clarifying for that. We're new in partnership, so I'm learning through this conversation, which is great. Tell me about like some major milestones you've gone through as a company over the last 6 years, or maybe some a story about the evolution or development of LendFlow.
Yeah, definitely. There's certainly been a big evolution, for sure. And we always had this same vision, right? So we've been on the path, but to get it's a pretty big vision, and to get there, you got to go through the right steps. And I think for us, it was really, as they say, like eating your own dog food. It was like being power users of your own product to really master it for yourself, and then transitioning from there. And what that meant for us is kind of the first product was an embedded lending marketplace, right? And some components that made it really easy to embed part of that experience into your product, right, at those touch points. And then we were really operationalizing that and handling and building that marketplace on the back end. So that's where we started. We did that for a number of years, but we always built in a way where we knew we were going to make all of this infrastructure, these tools, extendable to our customers, right? So we had all the data API integrations into companies like Vouched. We practiced using when we caught all the fraud ourselves, using this marketplace. And then the next evolution is we allowed our customers to start to use the same tooling, right? To plug into other lenders, to plug into their own partnerships and win their own integrations and brand partnerships, and to use a lot of the services and all of the different data. And we can give recommendations like, hey, Vouch is really good in this area, for credit scoring. It's this other tool. So we already have tried and tested many, and they're already all kind of refined and streamlined within the products. And we focused and had a tight feedback loop for making that process very, very efficient. And now they can do the exact same thing. And then it led into the kind of the third evolution where we are now, where new technology has come out to that you can add to the product and embed within every facet of our product to accelerate the automation even more. And that's the kind of the AI revolution that's going on now, and being able to build agents to automate more of the processes more quickly. And so we are using that, and probably we've been about upwards of 50 agents within our product that do everything from collecting documents from customers to extracting data from all types of documents, to augmenting and enhancing data, third-party sources, or consolidating data, or generating credit memos. And then last, like semantic search, so searching and accessing information much more quickly and easier than it was done before. And so that's been kind of like the third evolution. And yeah, it's been a super exciting journey. And along the way, we've learned a ton, and been able to provide a lot of these things to all of our customers. As our network's grown, there's been more and more value to provide as we've kind of gone from one stage to the other. So it's been very exciting.
It's excellent. It's really a great story. And then I'm curious if you have any advice. I'm at a conference right now, and I just had a young person who has experience in product, data science, and now is selling, wants to create his own business at some point. So if you were sitting with that person, what kind of advice would you give him if he was ready to start his own fintech company?
It's it's a great question, and it's really important question right now. Really, really important question at the moment, because a lot of this is changing for the better, as long as you're approaching it the right way, right? There's all of this new AI tooling that can allow you to build much more efficiently and quickly. And so it's less about it's really about like selling before you buy, and that's not too different from in the past something like a lean startup, but the scope of what you're able to do in that lean startup methodology, like building or excuse me, selling um, before you really build. There's so much more that you can do there now. And so, and with AI, it's similar to how we started with more of a services business, and transitioning into more tech is also a big part of that, right? You can go and almost be a consultant and be an expert and a consultant in many of these technologies now, and solve a lot of problems right out of the gates, and then build with a very lean team behind it based on customer feedback and based on real validation of a real problem and real revenue, real dollars coming in the door. Whereas before, it was more difficult to do that. It was maybe a little bit more limited to the landing page and like getting signups. Now you can run an entire services business, now similar to how we ultimately ended up doing it, and taking customer feedback and validate, and then you can build a lot of it yourself. Great POCs, what would take weeks, months, some years, you can maybe sit down and build in a weekend if you really commit yourself to learning a lot of these new IDEs and coding platforms, development platforms. You can build a lot yourself and with a much leaner team, right? And so that means you need a lot less resources. You're a lot less tied to venture capital. You probably could run pretty profitably right out of the gate. Means a lot less dilution, a lot more control, and that's a really positive thing for entrepreneurs. And so I'd highly recommend you. Just round out your skill set and pick up some of those skills so that you can run the new iteration, the new version of the lean startup methodology, and build great things with a really lean, efficient team. So, yeah, it's especially exciting time to be building, and there are so less limitations than there ever been. So I'd encourage you to go for it. Just keep those things in mind. Sell, validate, and vibe code to build first.
Yeah, and just that example of leveraging AI, it's an amazing tool. We've only scratched the potential for building companies and really punching above our weight, using that technology for scale. It's awesome, really exciting. John, any parting words today you want to share for our dozens of listeners on my podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you happen to be building or interested in anything AI, and you want to try, or you have an idea, or you want to try to build something, feel free to reach out. We'd love to chat with you. We love building new solutions and agents with our customers. It's a lot of fun. It's very, very exciting. Be shocked at everything, how quickly and how everything you can get accomplished, and how fast you can do it. And we'd love to support you in that. So if you're thinking about it, you have ideas, you have a startup or whatever, we love to chat. So feel free to reach out.
Great, John. Thanks for making the time. We're super excited to partner with LendFlow. We look forward to great collaboration with your company.
Likewise. It's been a pleasure, Tom. Thanks for having me on, and we'll keep building deeper and deeper from here.
Sounds great.